This is the story of Elijah the prophet, and a day that changed the faith of a nation forever. You may have heard whispers of miraculous events in the Bible, but this story stands apart. It's a tale of fire, faith, and a dramatic showdown on Mount Carmel. So stop scrolling and lean in. You don't want to miss this. Long ago, Israel found itself in a spiritual crisis. King Ahab had turned his back on God, influenced by his wife Jezebel, a zealous worshiper of Baal, the storm and fertility god. Under their leadership, the Israelites abandoned the one true God and plunged headfirst into idolatry. Temples to Baal stood tall, while altars to the God of Israel lay in ruins. It appeared as though the heartbeat of faith was fading, but God had other plans. Enter Elijah, a man of rugged features and fiery zeal. He was God's chosen prophet in a time when speaking truth was dangerous. God sent Elijah to the court of King Ahab, bold as you please, to deliver a shocking message. There would be no rain, not a drop, until the people turned back to the God of their ancestors. Predictably, this declaration made Elijah public enemy number one. Yet he stayed true to his mission, walking directly into danger because he knew he was backed by a power far greater than any mortal king. For 3 years the heavens remained dry. The people were desperate. The land was parched. Crops failed, water dried up, and hope flickered on the edge of extinction. Then the order came from God for Elijah to end the drought, not through quiet prayer, but through a grand confrontation. Elijah summoned Ahab and issued a simple challenge. Gather all the priests of Baal, there were 450 of them, and meet me on Mount Carmel. It was showtime. Picture this: a throng of Israelites, priests clad in ceremonial robes, and King Ahab's retinue ascended Mount Carmel under a searing sun. Elijah stood alone but resolute. His challenge was phenomenal in its simplicity. "How long will you waver between two opinions?" he roared. "If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal is God, follow him." The crowd, captivated by the tension, remained silent. Elijah laid out the terms. 2 altars would be set up, one for Baal and one for God. 2 sacrifices, no fire. The God who answered by fire, that would be the one true God, and the people agreed. The priests of Baal went first. They danced, chanted, and shouted from dawn until midday, calling on Baal to send fire. But there was nothing. "Perhaps Baal is sleeping," Elijah taunted, a sly grin on his face. "Shout louder. Maybe he's busy or traveling." This only spurred them on. Bloodied from desperate self-inflicted wounds, they screamed louder, but silence was their only answer. Then it was Elijah's turn. Calmly and quietly, he rebuilt the altar of the Lord with 12 stones, one for each tribe of Israel. He dug a trench around the altar, arranged the wood, and placed the sacrifice on it. Then he did something remarkable. He drenched it all in water, once, twice, 3 times until it overflowed. Fire from heaven was the last thing anyone expected now. Standing before the altar, Elijah prayed, "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant." In that moment, fire fell. It consumed the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and even the water in the trench. The people fell to the ground, faces in the dirt, crying, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" It was a moment of reckoning, not just for Israel, but for anyone who doubted the supremacy of God. What made Elijah remarkable wasn't just that he called fire from heaven. It was his unshakable faith, even in the face of danger and overwhelming odds. His story reminds us that faith is not just about believing in miracles. It's about trusting the miraculous power of God to come through, even when it seems impossible. The aftermath was equally significant. The people turned back to God, and shortly after, the rains returned, renewing the parched land and the spirits of its inhabitants. But Elijah's journey didn't end there. Even heroes have moments of doubt and despair. When Jezebel threatened his life, Elijah fled into the wilderness, feeling utterly alone. Yet even then, God comforted him, speaking not through fire or wind, but through a gentle whisper. Elijah's story is proof that God's power isn't just in the dramatic acts, it's also in the quiet reassurance that He is always with us. So what do we take away from this tale? Elijah's confrontation on Mount Carmel wasn't just about fire descending from heaven. It was about a nation rediscovering its faith. It was a reminder that no matter how far we stray, God's call to return is always there, accompanied by His steadfast love and mighty power. Whether you feel like you're up against the impossible or wandering in a spiritual desert, know this: with God, nothing is truly impossible. So, what do you think? If you were there that day at Mount Carmel, would you have been convinced? It's not just a story, it's a question for every generation. And it's one we need to answer, not just with words, but with our lives. Let those words resonate. The Lord, He is God.